If you are a beginner and you are looking forward to learn how to draft your own basic bodice pattern, this video is for you. Hi loves, you are welcome to Olives. If you are new to this channel, my name is Olivia. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you for stopping by once again. As seen by the title, we will be learning how to draft our own basic bodice pattern. If you are a beginner or you are someone who has zero idea on how to draft a basic bodice pattern, I will encourage you to first of all watch the video, okay, and later your second time pick your pattern paper and follow the procedure with me from A to Z. Okay, do not disturb yourself to understand everything, otherwise you get confused. So follow as you draft, cut out and sew. In the next video we will be learning how to sew the basic bodice pattern so you don't have a problem. Okay, after sewing and fitting for yourself, you will be eager to learn or understand everything. Then you can go back to the video, watch again, try to understand everything. Okay, this is how we learn. Do not put pressure on yourself. Without wasting much time, let's get right into this video. This is my pattern paper, and from the side facing me, I'll mark 1 inch to determine my border line. I'll put these points into a straight line like this, and from the top part, just like this, I'll mark 1/2 inch. You can also mark 1 inch. I'll put these points into a straight line, which will serve as my starting point and also my shoulder line. I need an amount of paper to work with and also to differentiate my front from my back. Okay, we are working with 1/2 of the front and 1/2 of the back. So what I'm going to do is to divide my round measurement by 2. That's my scale, which is my bust. Okay, which means the widest or the biggest part of my measurement. If yours is the waist, if your waist is bigger, you divide your waist by 2. Okay, so my bust is 35. I added extra 1 inch for allowance, so dividing that by 2 is 18, which is what I'm marking on the paper. Okay, so this is what I have. The width of my paper is 18. Now I'm still going to divide whatever I have here into 2. This way I can differentiate my front part from the back. So 18 divided by 2 is 9. I'll also put these points into a straight line. Okay, and I'll just leave a reasonable amount of space at the edge of the first line, just like you see. And this is my center front, and here is my center back. The red line is the side. So from the starting line down, I'm going to mark my shoulder to chest. So to measure my shoulder to chest, I will need my round bust measurement. Okay, I've gained a little bit weight, so my bust is now 35 instead of 33.5. Okay, so I'm going to divide this by 6, and I have a total of 5.8 inches. Okay, so this is what I have. You make sure you add extra 1.5 to whatever result you have. This is a way to get your shoulder to chest measurement. Okay, so this is my real shoulder to chest. We mostly need 1 inch for shoulder slope. Okay, so I rounded this 7.3 to 7 inches, added 1 inch for shoulder slope, and that is a total of 8 inches. So I'll measure this from the starting point like this as my shoulder to chest, 8 inches, and I'll mark this across. I'll name this line CH. For every lady with an accurate measurement, your front length is mostly longer than your back length. Okay, so to measure this, get a rope and bend yourself to one side like this. Okay, so wherever you bend is your natural waist, so you use the rope to tie it like this. So I'll determine my shoulder to waist from the shoulder like this. Just place your tape like this from here. Okay, place your tape right on it. Make sure the tape passes through the fullest part of your bust and determine your waist measurement. My shoulder to waist is mostly 16. Turn your back to determine your back length, okay? Because as you can see my back, there is no fullness. You determine your nape. When you bend your neck, you feel a bone there, which is your nape, okay? So you place the tape on it like this and measure. If you are measuring yourself, this is what you do, and your client, you measure as well, okay? So you determine where the rope stops, and for me it's mostly 14.5. Again, on the front, while measuring your shoulder to waist, you can also locate your shoulder to nipple. Here I have my front and my back, okay? So I'll determine my length, that's my shoulder to waist. Go ahead and input your back length. This is just on the back space, okay? The space for the back, excluding the front. So I'll put this to a straight line like this, and in my case the difference between my front and my back is 2 inches. I'll mark it out like this, which means that it is not part of the back length. As you can see, this is 2 inches. These 2 inches does not work for everybody, okay? If your front, you don't have much fullness, like your breast is not big, you can just end up working with 1.5 inch as your difference. That is why it is good to measure, okay? If you are smallish, something like 1.5 works. 2 inches is average. You can sometimes have 2.5 or even 3 inches. I've ever worked with 3.5 inches, so it's best to measure yourself or your clients. Next, I'll input half of my shoulder to shoulder measurement, which is mostly known as across back. Mine is 14 inches. I'll divide this into 2 equal parts, which is giving me 7 inches. From the center front, I'll mark 7 inches. I'll also mark 7 inches from the center front on the chest line. You can either put it into a straight line or broken lines. I'll repeat the same process for the back. From the center back, 7 inches on the center back chest line, 7 inches, and also put that into a broken line. Alright, so I'm going to use a neck width of 3.5 inches, which I'll mark right here from the center front. 3 inches, okay? Mark the same thing as the neck depth, and I'm going to square it up. 3 inches is the standard measurement, okay? So from here, I'll just go in with my armhole curve to create the neckline. I'll mark 1 inch like this and connect them together, okay? I usually don't like the center front of the neckline to be curved, so I make it to look like a straight line a little bit, and I'll connect them together, okay? I'll go ahead and determine my back neckline as well. The same neck width as 3 inches, but the neck depth for the back will be 1 inch. After doing this, I'll connect together with my armhole curve. So that is also my back neckline. You remember while calculating the shoulder to chest, we added 1 inch for shoulder slope. This is where I mark my, okay? So from the starting point, I'll mark 1 inch and slant it to meet the neckline, or the neckline to meet the shoulder slope anyway. If you check your shoulder, you realize that the front part of your shoulder is a little bit deeper than your back, okay? And mostly for this, we use 1.5 as the shoulder slope. Most of the times it's 1.5, okay? But sometimes I feel like my shoulder is not that deep, so 1.25 instead of the 1.5, okay? You can definitely make use of 1.5, okay? So I'll connect this point to the neck point, the neck width point, to create the shoulder slope. Okay, now we are ready to connect our armholes together, but before we do that, we need to tighten the shoulder. You see the way the shoulder, the neck part of the front looks pointed. We need to take a little bit out from there. Okay, if you have a right angle ruler, you can use it, or you can just use this straight part of your ruler like this. Make sure it meets, it aligns with your neckline, and also make sure that the edge of your ruler meets the shoulder slope, and take that excess off. Can you see? So if you don't do this, when you sew, your shoulder will be gaping. If you ever experience that, you know what I'm talking about. So I'll just outline the shoulder line like this. Now my front is done. Okay, so we just take off this place. We don't need it. We do not need it. Now I'll find half of my armhole line like this. It's 7, so I'm going to divide it into 2, and I have 3.5, so I'm just going to mark this 3.5 like this. And after doing this, I'll repeat the same thing for the front, 3.5, and put this point into a straight line like this. Then I'll go in from the center of this armhole line on the front by 0.75. Okay, our front is mostly deeper than our back, so front 0.75 and the back will just be ½ inch. Okay, 0.75. So I'm going to connect them together, shoulder slope to the ½ inch like this with a straight line. I'll repeat the same thing for the front. Now on my chest line, I'll input 1/4 of my round bust. Mine is 35, divided by 4 is 8.75. I'll connect these points together to create my armhole like this. Make sure they blend together, okay? And for the back as well, I'll use 1/4 of my bust, but this time I'm going to add extra 1/4 inch. Okay, that will be a total of 9 inches. For a reason I'll explain as we move ahead. Okay, so instead of 8.75, I'll mark 9 inches, and also connect the armhole together, making sure all the points blend. Okay, so you will see that the back armhole is a bit shallow, but the front is deep. Next thing is to create our darts. My nipple to nipple or bust pan measurement is 7 inches. You measure yours, okay? So mine is 7 inches divided by 2 is 3.5. I'll mark this from the center of my front like this, and also mark the same thing here. On this point, I'll come down by 1 inch and still make sure that it is 3.5 inches from the center front. I'll put these points into a straight line. I'll use a total dart width of 1 inch, so that means ½ inch on both sides of the line I've drawn. So I'll mark ½ inch here and also ½ inch here, and I'll connect them to the 1 inch point I marked down like this. On the back, we are also going to repeat the same thing, 3.5 from the center back, and also mark the same thing on the chest line. I'll put them into a straight line just like we did for the front, ½ inch on both sides. While I was measuring myself in the beginning, you realize that my back was not straight like this. It is slanted and yours is not also straight. So to tighten or to make sure the back blends with mine, you either use ½ inch or 0.75 or maximum 1 inch. Okay, so I'll just use ½ inch. Connect this ½ inch to either the chest or the midpoint of the chest and the neckline. So I'm going to use my ruler to connect it this way and mark it close to the neckline, but not really on the neckline. Okay, just watch what I'm doing. So that is how I've slanted my back. Along the center back, you see on the chest line that a little intake was taken. Okay, hence why I added 1/4 inch to total measurements. That's 1/4 of my bust. Okay, so that by the time that is taken off, my 1/4 bust is still the same. So this side will be taken off. In case you want to add zip allowance, it will follow this new line like this up. So I'll name here my new center back. From this new center back, I'll input quarter of my waist. Okay, my round waist divided by 4, which means quarter. Okay, so when I do this, I'll replace the 1 inch that allowance or that intake we use like this, and then I'll connect it to my bust point. I'll repeat the same thing for my front, quarter of my waist plus 1 inch that intake. I'll replace that and then connect it to my chest point. Guess what? I didn't include my shoulder to nipple. How did that happen? My bad. Okay, so I'll clean this dart. I don't know what happened to me, but I still inserted this dart. Okay, so I'll input my shoulder to nipple, which is 9.5. Okay, you do the same thing from the beginning before you input your dart. Okay, please. So I'll rule this. My shoulder to nipple, my nipple is at only my front, so you don't need it on your back bodice. So I'll put that into a straight line, just as you see. And then again, I'll mark half of my nipple to nipple, 3.5 like this, which I was supposed to come down by 1 inch here, right? And mark 3.5 like this again. Put that to a straight line and mark ½ inch on both sides to create my dart. Okay, the only mistake I did here was not to input my shoulder to nipple. Any other thing is correct. Okay, so I'll name here nipple point or nipple line. If you got to this stage with me, let's give it up for ourselves. This is another drafting process which deals on how to make both sides of the front and back the same. If you are a beginner, I'm sure you asked yourself, how would these uneven sides meet, right? So this is what we are going to do. I have 2 inches as the difference between my front and back, right? So I'm going to mark these 2 inches from my nipple point or nipple line like this. Okay, and then I'm going to find a midpoint, which is 1 inch. If yours is 3 inches, you find a midpoint of 3 inches. Okay, now right from the nipple point, that's nipple to nipple, I'm going to go in. Is it in or out? I'm going to mark 1 inch away from that point. That's what I'm trying to say. And then connect all these points together like a dart. It's actually called an underarm dart. By the time the dart is taken, the back will align with the front. Okay, so now this is what I have. I'll cut the back. Okay, so we can work with only the front. I'll go in from the center by ½ inch like this. That's the center dart. Okay, and connect them together just as you see. Okay, if you want to use this method, it means that you want to sew your underarm dart and also sew your waist dart. Okay, that is why you have it this way. Now in the next part of this video, we shall practice dart manipulation. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next one.